Hello everyone, I'm Jackie at BestAssess and I'm here to talk you through the assessment overview for the foundation level quick phonics skills progression assessment. As you can see, we have set up the assessment so that you can create an individual student profile. You can also create a whole class data profile later on in the resource. This is so that you have quick access to both types of data whenever you are planning. So you could in fact print off the profiles and you could write each student's name in their box. Here we have the contents page, and as you'll see, the phonic progression is on the left-hand side with all of the Victorian curriculum links for you. And then in the middle row, there's all of the assessment pages for the student. And on the right are the assessment pages and tools that you will need as the teacher for this assessment resource. The assessment is broken down into each part of the progression. You'll see here that the first one says the most common sound that each letter makes. You have a choice between the Victorian modern cursive font or the didactic Gothic font, which is just a plain font. You'll also notice there, that the teacher's script is at the top, so you're only dealing with one piece of paper whenever you're doing an assessment with the child. A major tip that we have to reduce cognitive load and to keep the children focused is to have a blank piece of paper in which you cover rows 2 and below, just so the children aren't overwhelmed or getting distracted by the other things on the page, as we know can happen quite often and easily. Here is your individual student data profile page where you'll be able to go and tick each name and sound that the children gets correct for the uppercase letters and the lowercase letters. We also have a notes section here, as we do on every student data profile, as it's so important to record information such as the students' attitudes to learning, what they've been doing during the assessment, and any learning dispositions that you've noticed as well. As you'll see, we then move on to the next part of the progression, which is blends the sounds to read vowel consonant words. And it follows the same format, so you'll become very familiar that it has the progression page followed by the student assessment, the individual student data profile, and of course it would move on to the next part of the progression. Most of the individual student data profiles are actually rubrics, and I just wanted to touch briefly on that. If you want me to break down the rubrics even more, there's actually a video about that for you further down. So just keep searching and you'll find the rubrics broken down. Here we have, says the letter of each sound. Children might isolate the sounds and say at when they're reading the word at. What we want the children to do to become more accurate and fluent readers is to actually blend through the word. We want the children to read at. So here that you could give them a tick if they've done that. We also want children to get into the habit of blending at and then rereading the word at. If your child is at the end of this rubric, it means they're just automatically looking at that word and saying at, and they're not even needing to blend. If the children are doing that, you would just move a bit further down the progression to see how they go with the next assessment. So as you can see, the structure is the same for every part of the progression. Some assessments will have an assessment administration and information page. This one is probably important to talk about. We don't want you to get confused. This page here is the script for teachers, and it's also a bit like an answer sheet. So it's what we want the children to do. This is the page that you give the children. If you have any concerns about children's fine motor skills, I highly suggest printing this off in A3 size, just so the children have a bit more room to be able to write their letters. So this is a spelling test. This is the template that you can give the children. And of course, here is the script that you can read from and the rubric to go with it. So it's for VC and CBC webs. Here we come to the whole class data profile. So here is where you can print this off, one copy, as all of the students' data will be in this. You can write in your class's name. And here we have all of the whole class data profiles. So I'll be going into these in more depth further on in the blog with its own separate video. Okay, so that is the foundation level phonics skills progression assessment overview. If you would like to know more information, just keep scrolling down. There's lots of mini videos for you to see. Thanks, everybody.